I would trust Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes to work it out. All right, welcome in. It is the Breer Report for September the 16th. Week 2 is now in the books. 2 Monday night games, and we are headed towards week 3. And our first topic for this Tuesday morning is the biggest topic of the week, probably the biggest topic of the year to this point, and that is Joe Burrow going down with a grade 3 case of turf toe. That means he's going to have surgery, and that surgery will sideline him for about the next 3 months. Now, there are a couple of silver linings here for the Bengals in what's an otherwise pretty terrible situation. The first silver lining is the fact that they now have a 2-0 cushion. They have not played very well through 2 weeks, but they get the win over the Browns last week in a bit of an uneven performance. And then they come back this week and they're able to beat the Jaguars with Jake Browning in there as their quarterback. And the presence of Jake Browning would provide the second silver lining. 2 years ago, Jake Browning started a bunch of games with them. They have confidence in him. And I think you see the reason for that confidence in that win over the Jaguars on Sunday. He threw 3 picks, but he was able to battle through all of that and lead a 92-yard touchdown drive to win the game in the end. Did they get some help? Sure. The questionable pass interference call that extended the drive on a 4th down against Travis Hunter was there. But Jake Browning was able to compartmentalize what had happened earlier in the game and fight through. I think you saw why the Bengals have so much confidence in Jake Browning, because he's able to get in there and operate their offense. I think he's better than some starting quarterbacks in the NFL as it stands right now. And so the idea that you could go in with Jake Browning as your starting quarterback is not a nightmare situation. So you have those two things. You have the 2-0 cushion. You have Jake Browning. And then the third silver lining here, I would say, is the schedule. It is relatively manageable over the next 3 months. And I have a Week 15 game against the Steelers, or against the Ravens, circled for Joe Burrow's return. That is exactly 3 months to the day of Joe Burrow's injury. Now, 3 months, of course, is an expedited timetable, but if he can get back there for that Week 15 game against the Ravens, if you look at their schedule, you can see a scenario where maybe they could go 6-5 over the 11 games between now and then. That will put them at 8-5 going into that Ravens game. Maybe different parts of their team grow as a result of not having Joe Burrow in there. And again, this is an optimistic view of it. But if they're 8-5 going into that Ravens game, they build some momentum there. Their last 3 games aren't over the top difficult. I could see the Bengals being in a situation where they could really hit the ground running when Burrow is back and build some momentum going into the playoffs. And as long as you've got Joe Burrow as your quarterback, this would be a dangerous team in January. The other question, of course, is what you do just as far as building some depth. And that's the discussions the Bengals are having right now. At what level do you address this? Do you go and just get another arm in there? Or do you swing for the fences a little bit more? Do you go and trade for a Jameis Winston? Do you inquire with the Falcons about a Kirk Cousins? Those are the things that you could do. As far as I'm concerned, the way I'd look at this, I would say any year you have, any chance you have to go into the playoffs with Joe Burrow as your quarterback, those are precious opportunities. And so if you've got if you can give yourself a better chance of getting into the tournament with Joe Burrow as your quarterback, you got to do it within reason. And so, it'd be costly to go out and get a Kirk Cousins. It costs a little more than maybe you wanted to spend on the position to go and get a Jameis Winston. But if that gives you some insurance against Jake Browning not playing as well, or something you want to monitor over the next few weeks as you see Jake Browning in the context as your starting quarterback, then I think it's something you have to consider. All right, our second topic for this morning, J.J. McCarthy will not play on Sunday, or at least it doesn't look like he's going to play on Sunday against the Bengals. Looks like the Vikings will have Carson Wentz in there. And I want to make a point about this because I know there's a lot of question about whether or not J.J. McCarthy's really hurt. There was some tape floating around out there about how well he was moving around at the end of that game. I think we have to trust the Vikings here. Adrenaline can get guys through games. I wouldn't doubt a football player's injury in a situation like this. And I do think for J.J. McCarthy, it's important that we all give him a little bit of patience and a little bit of runway here to develop. He's not Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold last year was coming into Minnesota with the scars of 7 years of ups and downs, or 6 years of ups and downs with the Jets, with the Panthers, with the Niners, had developed, had gone through a lot, had a chance to play in the offense that Kevin O'Connell was running, or versions of it under Ben McAdoo in Carolina, and then Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. And so, I think too often what happens in these situations is we judge everybody in a vacuum. We judge everybody based on what they're doing on a week-to-week basis, which we have to do. Everybody's got column inches to fill. Everybody's got airtime to occupy. The reality is, like, too often these guys aren't given enough patience. And I think we saw the flashes from JJ on the Monday night, on that Monday night against Chicago in the fourth quarter. We have to give him time to develop. He lost almost his entire rookie year last year because of the knee injury. He didn't have a chance to get very many physical reps as a rookie. So essentially, in some areas, he's still developmentally a rookie. So, it didn't look good on Sunday night against the Falcons. For 3 quarters, it didn't look good against the Bears. But I think giving J.J. McCarthy some runway and some time is important. And I think maybe the injury gives him a chance to reset and take a look at himself again. It'll be interesting to see what Carson Wentz looks like in the offense, especially since the Vikings made the decision during camp to trade away Sam Howell and bring in Carson Wentz. So keeping an eye on how all of that plays out is going to be really interesting as well. Finally, our third topic for today, the Chiefs are now 0-2, season opening loss in Brazil to the Chargers. And then on America's Game of the Week this week on Sunday afternoon, they lose to the defending world champion Eagles. And I'm certainly not looking at the Chiefs right now as a team that's firing on all cylinders. I think we all see what's going on here. And I think there are little signs of trouble. I think the defense is mostly fine. But I think when you look at the offense, what you're seeing, is Patrick Mahomes running more. And that's generally a warning sign to me that things aren't exactly right. Because Patrick Mahomes doesn't want to run. Andy Reid doesn't want him to run. When he is scrambling around, usually it is to throw. So the fact that he's tucked the ball and run as much through 2 weeks tells you they don't have the answers right now offensively, which is sort of natural, right? They lose Rashee Rice to suspension. They expected that. They lose Xavier Worthy to injury. They didn't expect that. So they're cobbling things together where they're relying on guys like Tyquan Thornton right now to make big plays for them. Travis Kelce isn't what he once was, and you've got a rookie starting at left tackle. I would just preach patience with this right now. I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to, win a fourth Super Bowl like this when we get to February. I didn't pick them to win the Super Bowl, but I do think that they're going to be there at the end, whether it's in the divisional round, the championship round. I do think they're going to be in the mix at the end. And that's based on demonstrated history. I think they're a lot like the Patriots used to be, where they use the early parts of the year to develop their team. Some years it looks better than others. It doesn't look great right now because of the suspension and injury issues that they've got on the offensive side of the ball. But once they get Xavier Worthy back healthy, up and running, opposite Hollywood Brown, once they get Rashee Rice after the 6-game suspension, I think we're looking at something completely different. Once they get Josh Simmons a little more experience at left tackle, and once he's halfway through his rookie season, it might look a little different. I just think when you're looking at the totality of the Chiefs and where they are at 0-2, I think you're looking at a team that generally has done a good job of using the early parts of the season to develop their team. And again, it doesn't look as good this year because they do have some of those ongoing issues. I would trust Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Matt Nagy and those guys on the offensive side of the ball to work it out. And I think the defense is just fine as it is. So don't count the Chiefs out yet. Appreciate you guys coming out. We will have a mailbag edition coming for you in the next day or two, and we'll have another Breer Report at the end of the week. As always, you can leave comments on YouTube. You can get to me on my social channels at Albert Breer on Twitter, at Albert_Breer on Instagram, at Albert R. Breer on Facebook. We'll see you here in the next couple of days.